What is up, everyone? Welcome to the FAA podcast. Good to be back. A lot of football went down over the weekend, and it was, I don't know, I think our guy John was right. The freaking fall equinox, that made everything weird this weekend. I don't know how you felt about the weekend of football, Jimmy.
All that tells me is that to correctly make picks, I need to deal with astrology.
Yeah.
I need to find a local astrologist and help me out. Maybe a palm reading, maybe reading a crystal ball. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it was totally weird, especially NFL. There were some wonky stuff going on there. All right, but let's start off on Friday night here. We had 3 games on Friday. It started off weird. Stanford beating Syracuse 26-24 in the Dome. I was surprised on this one. I had Syracuse by like 6.5 or something like that. And Stanford screwed me twice this year. So not betting against Stanford again this season. That's for sure. The Ohio State transfer there, Kyle McCord, 64.3%, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, rushing score as well. Syracuse did do a good job. They actually came back in this one. They were down by quite a bit. I think it was 14-3 at one point, and they came back, made it 24-23 with like a minute to go or something like that. Ashton Daniels drove his Cardinal down the field, and they kicked the game winner and got it done. But Daniels there, 60.5%, 178, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 13 carries, 45 yards. Good dual threat QB there for Troy Taylor's squad in year 2, I think this is for Coach Taylor there in the ACC now. So Chris Davis Jr. leading the way for the Cardinal on the ground, 9 carries, 79 yards. A 100-yard receiving game for Syracuse wide receiver Trevor Pena, 10 for 101. Touchdown receptions going from McCord to Umari Hatcher and Jackson Meeks. And for the Cardinal, Daniel's lone touchdown went to a kid that's amazing. He was amazing as a freshman last year, still amazing as a sophomore this year. Alec Ayomanor caught one on his 7 catches on the night. Defensively, it's the touchdown, because that's essentially what made the game matter here. Safety Mitch Legber, 2 tackles, both of them solos, tackle for loss, 71-yard pick 6. Stanford plus 9.5. Cut wins outright under 56.5. I don't know. I think, Kyle McCord. Ohio State's not missing him, right?
No, we're good.
Ranked matchup there in Lincoln, number 24 Illinois. Logan getting us on the lone wolf there on the Illini, 31-24 in OT over number 22 Nebraska. And I know you had strong feelings about this game, Jimmy, based off your
What are they doing? Hey, our defense just got cooked to end the game. Should we win the coin toss and immediately put them back on the field? Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do.
I was listening to this game on Friday, so was not watching it, but I mean, it was pretty close all night. To be honest, I had Illinois spread anyways, so I wanted to keep it a close game. But you and I picked Nebraska, so I wanted the Huskers to win, and thought the Huskers were going to win. I thought they had the better quarterback. But Luke Altmaier said, "Hold my beer." And he came out and balled. It was a great QB showdown. in Lincoln there. Dylan Raiola, the all-world freshman, 68.6%, 297, 3 tuds, a pick. Like I said, Altmaier was fantastic, 77.8%, 215, 4 touchdowns, 10 carries, 21 yards, and a fumble. This Dante Dowdell kid has been pretty solid for Matt Rule's squad. 20 carries, 72 yards, 2 catches, 10 yards, lead the game in rushing. Jamal Banks for the Huskers, he led the game in receiving, 8 for 94. His teammate Isaiah Nayer caught 2 touchdowns from Raiola. Offense or wide receiver Janiran Bonner caught the other one, 1-yard score for him. And for Illinois, Altmaier's touchdowns, 2 of them went to wide receiver Pat Bryant, 1 to tight end Tanner Arkin, and offensive lineman Brandon Henderson catching a 6-yard touchdown. Big man touchdowns, always a fun time. Illinois linebacker Alec Bryan is my defensive player of the game. 3 tackles, 2 solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 pass defense. Illini plus 9.5, win outright over 41.5. Third game. So it went even further as the night went on. We had a regulation game in the first one, overtime in the second game, double overtime in the nightcap, and I got to watch the end of this one when I got back home. The Cougars stay undefeated in Pullman. It was close, 54-52 in double overtime against San Jose State. Yeah, I mean, this was a fantastic game. I wish I would have been able to watch it, the entire thing, but it was just offense. And just like the Syracuse game, this was a comeback. Washington State had to come back by quite a bit on San Jose State and ultimately got the win after they kicked a game-tying field goal at the end of regulation. Gene Janikowski there, former NFL kicker Sebastian Janikowski's son, kicking for the Cougs. John Mateer, though, he continues to light it up. This guy's dual threat city, 56.5% passing, 390, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, 18 carries, another 100-yard game for him, 111 on the ground and a touchdown, so 5 total. Scores for Mateer. Emmett Brown for the Spartans, 64.8%, 375, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a rushing score, so 5 for Brown as well. Great football name here for the Spartans, leading the game in rushing outside of Mateer. Floyd Chalk, the 4th. Love the Chalk. 11 carries, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns. 2-touchdown day on the ground for Washington State running back Dylan Payne. And then, of course, if you have so much offense, you're going to have pretty big receiving days. San Jose State wide receiver Nick Nash, he really is their offense. Like, this man is a beast. Jump ball type of guy, massive, used to play quarterback, so he knows how to run routes well. 16 receptions, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns for Nash. He's a guy to watch out for the draft this year, just saying. Kyle Williams for Washington State, also over 100, 8 for 138, a touchdown. Washington State's other touchdown receptions, wide receiver Josh Meredith. And then tight end Cooper Matthews caught 2 touchdowns, 1 on each of his receptions. Spartans touchdowns going to wide receiver Trayshawn Hurry and tight end Jacob Stewart. Defensively, let's see what we got here. Going with the bottom guy there, Spartans linebacker Jordan Cobbs, 8 tackles, 6 solos, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and a pick. San Jose State plus 12 covers over 55.5. By a little bit, just a tiny bit. 106 points in that one. And not even close to the highest scoring game of the weekend. Number 3, Ohio State, 49-14 over Marshall. And, yeah, it was close. The Herd had 2 leads, man. 7-zip, 14-7. They had him.
Had him by the ropes.
Yeah. I mean, we knew this game was going to be close. It was close enough, though, for some people. Not me. I didn't do that. But for a lot of people, it was close enough. Yeah. Will Howard, 80% completion, 275, 2 touchdowns, a pick, rushing score. And they also got Devin Brown into the game. Not great. 2 of 6, 33.3%, 14 yards. For Marshall, it was Stone early, 76.2%, 132 touchdown, 12 carries, 23 yards. Braylon Braxton, the Tulsa transfer, also getting some work, just 1 of 4, 25% for 2 yards. Quinshon Judkins, he's had a couple good weeks in a row, I believe. Leading the way on the ground for the Buckeyes, 14 carries, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 14 yards. And that's the kind of performance that OSU brought him in from Old Miss.
Mm-hmm.
He was quite the game changer for the Rebels, and Ohio State's hoping that he can do that this year as they head into Big Ten play coming up. 2 touchdowns also by Travion Henderson, already a good player from last season. Ethan Payne scoring a rushing touchdown for the Herd. Emeka Egbuka, finally, right? Hasn't really done a lot the first 2 games. And then he finally gets a 100-yard game here, 5 for 117 and a touchdown. And the freshman, oh my goodness, dude, Jeremiah Smith just continues to be a beast. Another touchdown for him in this one. Marshall getting a touchdown reception for wide receiver Elijah Metcalf as well. And defensively, we're going to go with Ohio State corner Jordan Hancock. 4 tackles, 3 solos, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 passes defense. Marshall, I should say. That's why it was important for some people that this was close enough. Marshall plus 38.5 covered, over 55.5. Yeah, it's really small print. There are a lot of points in this one. Number 21, Clemson, dude. Clemson absolutely rolled NC State 59-35. You know what, though? I think it's discouraging for Clemson, and I'm sure the defensive coordinator was in these guys' faces today or yesterday. Like, bro, like we should not have given up 35 points. Like they were handling them. It was 59-14, and then they gave up another 21. So definitely some stuff to work on for the backups, anyways. And I was pissed because I had NC State under 15.5 points team total. So would have cashed my parlay on this game. So disappointed for me as well. But yeah, I mean, Clemson looked good, and I think with obviously we know what Florida State's been doing. I really think it's a 2-horse race now in the ACC, Clemson and Miami. I mean, those 2 teams are head and shoulders above everyone else, I think, especially Miami. But Clemson's looked really good after the loss to Georgia in week 1. Kate Klubnik. Let's see if I can read this here. 66.7%, 209, 3 touchdowns, 4 carries, 70 yards, and a rushing touchdown. They also played Christian Vizina, 4 of 7, 57.1%, 41 yards. CJ Bailey, the freshman for the Wolfpack, got his first start, and he didn't play badly. 64%, 204, touchdown, a pick, and a fumble. The turnovers obviously were tough, but the it just was difficult because they were down so quickly. They were down 28-0 in the first quarter. So like that's difficult to come back from. Lex Thomas also getting in work for the Wolfpack, 66.7%, 4 of 6, 53 yards and a touchdown. I was impressed by Phil Maffa, running back for Clemson, leading the game in rushing, 7 carries for 107, touchdown, 3 catches for 15 yards. Kendrick Raphael for NC State had a rushing score. Jay Haynes for Clemson, Hollywood Smothers for NC State, Jordan Waters catching a touchdown for NC State as well. DeMarcus Jones II got a rushing touchdown for the Wolfpack. And wide receiver Cole Turner scored on an 18-yard end around for the Tigers here. NC State tight end Justin Jolie led the game in receiving, 3 for 72. To be honest, dude, I hate that it's Jolie. I really do. Not spelled like Jolie. Spelled like Jolly. Okay. Just
you
saying.
could have so much fun, but they just decided to do it something else.
Wide receiver Adam Randall caught a touchdown from Klubnik, as did wide receiver Antonio Williams, caught 2. And NC State wide receiver Terrell Anderson catching the lone score from Bailey there. Or actually, no, that was from Lex Thomas. Jordan Waters caught the one from Bailey. Defensively, okay, so there's 2 guys, actually. Obviously, corner Ashton Hampton for Clemson, the 53-yard pick 6. But I also want to point out freshman linebacker Sammy Brown has been a monster on defense for Clemson. 8 tackles, 6 solos, 4 tackles for loss, and a pass defense. Clemson minus 17.5 covers over 44.5. 94 in that game. Mentioned that that other one wasn't the highest scoring game of the week. This one was. JMU going into Chapel Hill and absolutely rocking in North Carolina. How about 70-50? I didn't know we were playing basketball on Saturday.
I guess so.
Yeah, so this was totally discouraging for UNC. I saw this score and it was bad early. Like UNC got scored on by JMU's defense. They got scored on by JMU's special teams. So it just, everything went wrong that could go wrong for the Tar Heels in this game. The only thing I will say is Jacoby Criswell played very well. Despite the turnovers, that was the big issue, is all the turnovers, and that's why JMU was up so early, because one of them was a pick six, I think it was. But yeah, so Criswell here, 58.3%, 475, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a fumble. But they ran into a buzzsaw. Alonzo Barnett III he was the best player in all college football on Saturday. 64.7%, 388, 5 touchdown passes, 13 carries, 99 rushing yards, 2 scores, 7 total touchdowns for Barnett. He became the first Sun Belt player to throw for 5 touchdowns and run for 2. So, yeah, I mean, that's crazy in itself. 7 touchdowns. He accounted for, 7 of the 10 touchdowns for JMU. Omarion Hampton continues to be a great player. 19 carries, 139, 3 touchdowns, 3 catches for 34 yards for the Heels. You had Davion Gauss for the Tar Heels. Not a lot of work on offense. 2 carries, 8 yards, and a 4-yard reception. But he had a 34-yard blocked punt return for a touchdown. So that was one of the special teams plays that happened. Receiving-wise, Omarion Dollison, for JMU led the way, 3 for 125, a touchdown. Cam Ross for the Dukes had 100 yards as well, 7 for 107, touchdown and a fumble. Touchdowns, other receiving touchdowns, I should say, because there were a million of them. Tight end Bryson Nesbitt for UNC. Tight end John Copenhaver for UNC. His first game back after missing the opening for injury. You had tight end Taylor Thompson for JMU. UNC wide receiver Jordan Shipp caught one. Tight end Logan Kyle for JMU. Wide receiver Dylan Williams for JMU as well. And then defensively, like I said, it got pretty crazy here. I'm going to go with JMU corner Terrence Spence, 4 tackles, 3 solos, 2 picks. One of those was a 33-yard pick six. And then we had 2 blocked punts in this game, and the other one was on the JMU side. Wide receiver Jaden Mines had a 14-yard blocked punt return touchdown. So the craziest of crazy games, all this offense, and then we had 2 special teams touchdowns and a defensive touchdown as well. So I mean, I kind of wish I would have watched this game, but I was watching other ones. This thing would have been crazy. JMU plus 11.5 wins outright, and over 48.5. Both teams got that by themselves. And what's crazy is how hard it is to score 50 and lose. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right. Iowa State, number 20 Iowa State, 52-7 blowout of Arkansas State. I really liked Iowa State in this one. Knew that the Red Wolves weren't going to give up a ton of resistance here. Rocco Becht, decent day for him, 61.1%, 204, 2 touchdowns, a pick, and a rushing score. I think that's one thing I always look for when it's kind of the non-conference cupcakes that a lot of people call them. The turnovers are discouraging sight, I think, for, Power 5, top 20 team. You're going against a lower level competition of play, conference opponent, non-conference opponent. So definitely don't want to see turnovers. So that's just something Rocco Becht can work on there. ISU also got Connor Moberly in the game, 5 of 7, 71.4%, 49 yards, pick, 4 carries, 36 yards. For the Red Wolves, it was Jalen Rayner as the starter, 31.3%, 68 yards, 2 picks, 6 carries, 21 yards. Timmy McClain also getting in, 4 of 7, 57.1%, 50 yards, touchdown, and a fumble. Iowa State running back Carson Hansen led the game in rushing, 9 carries, 58 yards, 2 touchdowns. You also had running back Aiden Flora running one in. Cyclones tight end Benjamin Brahmer, he led the game in receiving, 3 for 73, and then touchdown receptions going to Iowa State wide receiver Jaden Higgins, Iowa State tight end Tyler Moore, and Arkansas State wide receiver Hunter Summers. Defensively, there were not a lot of stats, surprisingly, in this one, but I'm going to go Iowa State defensive end Joey Peterson, 2 tackles, both of them solo, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. Iowa State minus 18.5 covers easily, over 52.5. Thank you, Red Wolves, for doing your part and scoring a touchdown for the over. Yeah, my lone wolf got blown out on the teal turf, unfortunately. 43-24, UVA, the Cavaliers, getting it done against Coastal Carolina. We saw actually a bunch of undefeateds go down. I guess not as many in college. I'm thinking more probably NFL. A lot of undefeateds went down, but Coastal was one of those in college that went down this weekend. Ethan Vasco, not a good day, 47.6%, but they were explosive. 10 completions for 222 yards. Pretty solid there. Touchdown, a pick, 8 carries, 24 yards, and a rushing score. Coastal also played Noah Kim, the Michigan State transfer. just 50%, 80 yards and a touchdown. UVA, Anthony Calandria. That's really why I haven't trusted the Cavaliers, because I really haven't watched Virginia a lot, and I really don't know a lot about Anthony Calandria. So it's kind of why I haven't trusted Virginia so far this year, despite being 3-1. We'll see once they get an ACC play. But 65% for Calandria, 131, 2 touchdowns, 9 carries for 46 yards. The previous starter, actually, he lost the competition to Calandria this year. Tony Muskett getting in, completing both of his passes for 10 yards and 2 carries for 23 yards. Cavs running back Xavier Brown, big day for him, 9 carries, 171 yards. How do you like 19 yards per carry there, Jimmy? That works, right? That's pretty.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He also had a 4-yard reception chipped in there. UVA running back Kobe Pace, the Clemson transfer, he got one in the end zone on the ground. And that was the issue for the Chanticleers, no running attack. Look at that. Christian Washington was their leading rusher. Ethan Vasco was their leading rusher, but besides him, their leading running back was Christian Washington with 18 yards on 8 carries. So big issue there for the Chants. And then quarterback Grady Brosterhouse, short yardage quarterback, scoring 2 touchdowns on his 3 carries for 7 yards. Coastal wide receiver Trey Taylor led the game in receiving, 3 for 70, 22-yard run, and he also had a fumble. His teammate, wide receiver Jamison Tucker, and wide receiver Bryson Graves, they caught touchdowns from Vasco and Kim, and then Malachi Fields for the Cavaliers there. He caught both of the touchdowns from Calandria. Defensively, I am going to go with Virginia. Safety Antonio Clary, 8 tackles, a solo, 1 pass defense, and a pick. UVA minus 3.5 covers easily, over 52.5. Number 10, Penn State, getting it done at home, 56-0 over Kent State. Dude, I feel bad for the Golden Flashes. I really do. I mean, 71-0 last week, 56-0 this week. I mean, they haven't scored a point since week 1, or since week 2, I think. So, yeah, it's difficult in Kent, Ohio right now.
Let's hope these teams that they play are paying them well. That's all.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Let's hope the paychecks are worth it.
I am sure they are. But yeah, I mean, Penn State, man, they did what they had to do, and after a very close loss or very close win 2 weeks ago against Bowling Green, they righted the ship, did everything right, and set a school record here for total yards. 718 total yards in this one for PSU. Do you know the record that they broke, Jimmy?
No.
7-11.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guess either the year or who it was against?
I don't know. 1957.
It was almost 100 years ago. 1926 against Susquehanna University.
Oh, that was my second guess. It was right up there with a culinary academy.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to go with Ouachita Baptist, but
that was third.
Anyways, yeah, Drew Aller was fantastic. I mean, 81%, 309, 3 touchdowns, 5 carries, 26 yards, a rushing score. Bo Prebula, I still like this kid. He's got some moxie. He reminds me of Trace McSorley. He really does. He's a little thinner than McSorley, I think, but 66.7%, 83 yards, touchdown. The pick was unfortunate. They subbed him in, and usually they sub him in just to run the ball, but he actually threw, and it was a screen pass that got picked off by a D lineman. It was crazy. 5 carries, 45 yards, a rushing touchdown as well. For Kent State, it was a tough day. Their starter didn't last long. Their starter got hurt on like the second play of the game. So J.D. Sherrod played the majority of the game, 2 of 6, 33.3%, 18 yards, 6 carries for 11 yards. The other quarterback that played, Tommy Ulatowski, 0 for 6 passing. And that's also very difficult offensively. Like, they completed 2 passes all day. Like, I don't know how you do that. But and what also was interesting is, like, bro, you're losing by so much. Like, why are you not throwing the ball? I know they couldn't block Penn State. That was a big issue. But still, like, to have your 2 quarterbacks that played most of the game just combined for 12 attempts, I think was pretty crazy. For Penn State, running back Nicholas Singleton led the game in rushing, 11 carries, 81 yards, 2 catches, 22 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Cam Wallace, freshman running back, he scored a touchdown. Penn State wide receiver Omari Evans, 100-yard day for him, 4 for 116 and a touchdown. Liam Clifford caught a touchdown. Tight end Tyler Warren did everything. 5 catches, 50 yards, a touchdown. He threw a 17-yard touchdown as well to Nicholas Singleton there. Tight end Khalil Dinkins caught a touchdown also for the Nittany Lions. Defensively, I'm going to go with Penn State defensive end Abdul Carter. He's a monster. 4 tackles, 2 solos, 1 sack, 1.5 tackles for loss. Penn State minus 49. They got it done. They covered by the last touchdown. Over 55.5 also hit because they scored 56 and got the hook. Oh, goodness. No. Number 18, Michigan, 27-24 over number 11, USC. Dude, USC sucks.
Fire Lincoln Riley. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I was complaining about this the entire game. Michigan just had the most one-tone offense, and you somehow couldn't figure it out. They're running it between the tackles. That's all they do. Their quarterback can't throw the ball more than 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. How are you at all fooled?
Yeah, I mean, Michigan ran for 290 yards in this game. And I have no clue how USC, for one, wasn't up. Granted, Wink Martindale is probably one of the best defensive coordinators that you can have. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, USC defensively, like you said, like, what are we doing?
Why aren't we stacking the box here?
Right. There should have been 9 guys in the box every single play.
You should have essentially just ran a goal line stand every single play.
Yeah. 32 yards for Alex Orji. And again, yeah, I mean, he did well with his legs also. But yeah, I mean, we all picked USC, obviously. We thought that Michigan wasn't going to do anything. And they didn't really, other than run the ball and play good defense. And the thing is, like, okay, Michigan wouldn't even been in the spot had Miller Moss not been a dumbass and throwing the ball late to the outside, where and against the best corner in college football, and Will Johnson. So,
yeah, that was a slow developing play that should have been just canned the second he didn't get the throw off after like a step.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can't expect that to be completed. But at the same time, this is Miller Moss's first season as a starter, so he's very inexperienced. Lincoln Riley's working through that. 2 turnovers for Moss on the day. Otherwise, I think you have to be happy for USC. You did lose. But it was encouraging to see Miller Moss. They came back. They were down, and he got them to come back, leading 24-20. So technically, it really wasn't Miller Moss's fault because the defense let up the game-winning score. Just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe it's just that like USC is just not there yet. I think it would have been interesting. Do you think this game would have been different had it been played at the Coliseum?
I don't know. I don't think Michigan would have changed any game planning.
Right, but I mean, I don't know. Different atmosphere.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like USC's atmosphere isn't the same as it was in the mid 2000s. It just isn't that great for the home team anymore.
Yeah,
it's all right, but it's not like as dynamic as most SEC and other Big Ten schools.
Right. Got you. Well, Miller Moss, though, here, 54.9%, 283, 3 touchdowns, a pick, and a fumble. Alex Orji, like I mentioned, just 32 yards on 58.3%, 13 carries, 43 yards there. Kaleb Mullings had a day, 17 carries, 159, 2 touchdowns, and a 2-yard catch. Woody Marks, I know you mentioned his name during the game on our group chat. Great, good ball player, 13 carries, 100 yards. 5 receptions for 40 yards as well. The Mississippi State transfer there, really solid day. Donovan Edwards also getting a touchdown on the ground for the Wolverines there. Zachariah Branch, the sophomore, leading the way in receiving, 6 for 98. Touchdown receptions for the Trojans going to Jacoby Lane, Jay Fair, and Deuce Robinson. And, Michigan's leading receiver there with 1 reception for 10 yards. Tight end Marlon Klein. Defensively, it's Will Johnson. I mean, Josiah Stewart had a good day as well, but Will Johnson made the play of the day. 1 tackle. It was a solo, 42-yard pick, 6, and a pass defense. Michigan plus 4.5 wins outright over 43.5. Number 16, LSU. Beating up on UCLA 34-17. I was disappointed. I thought for sure LSU was going to cover in this game. I thought they were going to beat them by more than they did. UCLA had a great game plan in the first half. Really stuck it to the Tigers, and I think it was tied at 17 at halftime, but the LSU defense stood up in the second half, didn't allow a point, so good for the Tigers there. Garrett Nussmeier, excellent game, 72.7%, 352, 3 touchdowns. Ethan Garbers. The turnovers continue to plague the Bruins there, 61.1%, 281, 2 touchdowns, a pick, and a fumble. Josh Williams for the Tigers led the game in rushing, 62 yards on 13 carries and a score. A receiving touchdown by his teammate, running back Caden Durham. Tight end Mason Taylor led the game in receiving, 8 for 77. Garber's throwing touchdowns to wide receiver Logan Loya and tight end Jack Peterson. LSU's touchdowns from Nussmeier going to wide receiver Kyle Parker, wide receiver Xavion Thomas, and like I said, Caden Durham there. Defensively, I'm going to go with LSU defensive end Braden Swinson. He's been phenomenal through the first 3 weeks. 5 tackles, or first 4 weeks. 5 tackles, 3 solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. UCLA plus 22.5 covered, under 56.5. Dude, I friggin' hate Notre Dame so much. Number 17, Notre Dame, 28-3 over Miami, Ohio. Like, bro, what are you doing? It's Miami, Ohio, man. Like, I know the Redhawks have been pretty decent the last couple of years, and they've won some MAC championships. But what is the issue with MAC teams coming into South Bend and like Notre Dame struggling? I know people are probably going to say like, what do you mean they struggled? They beat them by 25, but they should have beat them by like 60. Like, by what we saw from the last time Notre Dame played, 66-7 against Purdue. Like, what are we doing?
Can't tell you.
And the biggest annoying thing that I had is I had a minus 27.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
All they had to do was kick a field goal at the end of the game to cover. That's all I wanted. And no. Hence why I say I hated all your people except for you, Jimmy.
Us Irish people had nothing to do with this. All right.
Yeah, Riley Leonard. I don't think Notre Dame's going to be a playoff team. I mean, the passing offense just hasn't been there this year. 64%, 154 touchdown, 12 carries, 143, 2 touchdowns and a fumble. They're essentially Michigan with a little bit better of a quarterback. That's what Notre Dame is right now. Like, their best offense has been Riley Leonard running the ball, and their running backs have been good too. So, what I would like to see is I'd like to see Notre Dame play Michigan and have a 3-0 game. That's what it would be. Seems like, anyways. Yeah, I misspoke on Friday. I thought Brett Gabbert had left Miami, but he is still there. 40% for Gabbert there, 119, 2 picks. Jeremiah Love, outside of Riley Leonard, he was leading running back there, 60 yards on 11 carries and a touchdown, 9-yard reception as well. Notre Dame wide receiver Bo Collins led the game in receiving, 60 on 4 catches and a touchdown. And defense, I'm going to go with Notre Dame defensive lineman Boubacar Traore. 5 tackles, 4 solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Back-to-back good weeks for Traore there. Miami, Ohio, plus 27.5. Covered under 43.5. That's another thing. I had the over in this game, man. I thought Notre Dame was going to potentially score it by themselves, and they only scored 28. Number 19, Louisville, 31-19 over Georgia Tech. Yeah, I mean, I thought potentially Tech was going to put up more of a fight. Not bad. They lost by 12. But I thought they were going to cover. I didn't have them covering, so that's good. But I did think 10.5 was quite a bit for this game. But yeah, I think kind of what we talked about on Friday. Tyler Schuff was really good and led the Cardinals to the win here. 68.4% for Schuff, 269, 2 touchdowns, 4 carries for 19 yards. Haynes King, 300-yard game for him, 65.6%, 312, 14 carries, 58 yards, touchdown, and a fumble. His running back, Jamal Haynes, he led the non-quarterbacks in rushing, so it was a pretty paltry rushing attack for both sides outside of the quarterbacks. Jamal Haynes, 12 carries, 25 yards, touchdown, and an 11-yard catch. But the passing offenses were rolling. 200-yard receivers in this one. For the Cardinals, it was wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks, 4 for 125, a touch. And for the Yellow Jackets, wide receiver Malik Rutherford, 7 for 113. Louisville wide receiver Chris Bell catching the other touchdown from Schuff there. And defensively, we had some good play from the Cardinals in this one. They helped out their offense by scoring a special teams and a defensive touchdown. So defensive lineman Roman Puryear, 1 tackle and a 0-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. And then defensive back Tayon Holloway, 2 tackles, both of them solos, 55-yard blocked field goal returned for a touchdown. Those are always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville, minus 8.5 covered, under 55.5. How about an upset in the MAC? Crazy thing is, it wasn't even on a Maction day. Like, you know, we're gonna get Maction earlier once October hits. Once October hits, we got Maction on like Tuesday nights. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, Buffalo, the Bulls hitting the over on my wins total. I had them going 2-10 this year, 23-20 in OT against number 23 Northern Illinois, and you can cross Rusty's Huskies out for the playoff this year because this means they're gone.
Do you think that cursed them? They became Rusty's Huskies and immediately got cursed.
No, man, they've been Rusty's Huskies for 2 years now. That was a thing that we always had on my good friend Troy Hermo's Twitter Spaces. Anytime I was on and we had Maction that day, I was like, bro, He's like, Rusty's Huskies getting it tonight. So that became a thing. But quarterback Ethan Hampton for NIU, 53.5%, 194 pick, 5 carries, 16 yards. CJ Ogbonna, 58.8%, 107 touchdown on a fumble. NIU running back Ontario Brown had a good day, leading the game in rushing, 73 yards on 24 carries, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 22 yards. Rushing touchdown by Bulls running back Alj Henderson. Buffalo wide receiver Victor Snow. It's a quality name to be in Buffalo with Snow as a last name. Led the game in receiving, 3 for 72 and a touchdown. And dude, how about the defense of this one? I'm going with 2 guys. I got to go with 2. Buffalo linebacker Sean Dolak. How about this? 19 tackles.
Dude, not even the craziest. Take a game playoff.
That's not even the craziest. 15 of them were solos. That's ridiculous. And then, by the way, he puts in 4.5 tackles for loss, a pass defense, and an interception.
Damn.
That's just ridiculous play. I love Sean Dolak. He's been a good player for the last couple of years for Buffalo. Actually was in the transfer portal, didn't end up finding a home elsewhere, came back to Buffalo. So that was the first one. And then on the losing side for the Huskies there, defensive end Nevaeh Sanders, 3 tackles, all of them solos, 3 sacks, hat trick for him, and 3 tackles for loss. Buffalo plus 12.5 wins outright over 42.5 by the hook. Needed that overtime. And by the way, do you know how Buffalo won this game? They blocked NIU's game-tying field goal attempt, I believe.
Whoa, I didn't see that.
I can't remember if they blocked the game-tying field goal or if NIU went first in OT and they blocked that field goal and then kicked their own. I don't remember which way it went, but I know they blocked field goal in overtime to win this one. Arkansas, yes, sir. We all got it right on the dog, 24-14 over Auburn. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know what the books were thinking with having Auburn as a favorite, man. I mean, they have not been good this year. Peyton Thorne's been horrendous. I mean, it's really not bad when you look at the stats. 59.1%, 213, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 5 carries for 10 yards. But Auburn just they cannot find it offensively, and I think their offensive line really struggles, especially against pressure. So the Razorbacks did a good job of that in this one. Auburn also played quarterback Hank Brown, 53.8%, 72 yards. He didn't do any better than Peyton Thorne. He threw 3 picks, 2 carries for 12 yards. Tail end Green, though, not a good game. 44.4%, 151, a touchdown, 2 picks. Luckily, he's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country, 18 carries for 80 yards. So got to get the passing numbers fixed for Green if Arkansas wants to contend in the SEC. But definitely one of the scariest players to face, I would say. They got a good running back behind him to help him out, though. Jaquindon Jackson, the Utah transfer, 22 carries, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 2-touchdown day for Auburn. Wide receiver Keandre Lambert-Smith, the Penn State transfer. Big day, 5 for 156 and 2 scores. Arkansas wide receiver Isaiah Sategna, he caught the lone touchdown from Green there. And then defensively, I don't know. It's a tough one. Danico Slaughter had a good day for the Razorbacks, but I'm gonna go with his teammate, defensive back TJ Metcalf, 4 tackles, all of them solos, 2 pass defense, and 2 picks. Arkansas plus 2.5 wins outright under 53.5. Yeah, bro. I was not good on the Lone Wolves this week. Or no,
I
Logan
picked
got
Arizona.
the Lone Wolf.
I picked Arizona.
Yeah, Logan got us. Logan got us on this one. The Red Raiders coming through. Texas Tech 30-22 over Arizona State. And yeah, I mean, I think the Sun Devils did a good job of coming back. And they were down pretty handily in this one. They got it back to a 1-score game late. Sam Levitt, though, 57.9%, 282, one pick, 9 carries, 25 yards rushing score. Baron Morton, 54.5% for the Red Raiders, 201, 2 touchdowns. But it was the rushing attack. Taj Brooks was, I think, the offensive player of the game for this one. 27 carries, 117 yards, 2 catches for 3 yards. Of course, the man himself, Cam Scattaboo, 2 touchdowns for him. And how about the massive receiving day? 6 for 117 for Scattaboo there. 177 total scrimmage yards on 24 touches and 2 scores. He's their offense. I mean, Sam Levitt's been really good, but Scattaboo's the guy that makes that thing work there. Texas Tech tight end Jalen Conyers. How about getting revenge on his team? He transferred into Tech from Arizona State this year. 3-yard rushing touchdown there. Texas Tech wide receiver Josh Kelly led the game in receiving outside of Scattaboo. 10 for 89 touchdown. And then John Carlos Miller, the second for Texas Tech, he caught the other touchdown from Morton. Defensively, big day for Arizona State defensive back Miles Rouser. 9 tackles, 4 solos, a sack, tack for loss, 3 pass defense. Texas Tech minus 4.5, covered under 57.5. No one saw this coming. I mean, nope. Navy just absolutely exploding, 56-44. Yeah, I mean, I was thoroughly shocked when I kept looking at this game score like every time. I was like, bro, Navy scored again. And it was, again, crazy. Blake Horvath just went off. 75%, just 9 of 12 passing. Obviously, Navy still a triple option school, as are all of the military academies. But 192, 2 touchdowns. Well, I guess Air Force isn't as much of a triple option anymore, but they still do it. 2 touchdowns passing, which, like, when do you see that from Navy? Not a lot. And then how about 12 carries, 211 yards, 4 touchdowns for the Navy quarterback, and he caught a 13-yard reception on a trick play. That's getting in work right there. 403 total yards, 6 touchdowns, or I guess actually 426 total yards with the reception, and 6 touchdowns for Blake Horvath in this one. I'm not sure. I have a feeling that he is Xander Horvath's brother. I have a feeling. Xander Horvath, good fullback in the NFL, been on a couple different teams, and played at Navy. So there's that connection as well. Anyways, Seth Hennigan, I expected more. Granted, he had a good day. 57.1%, 371, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 8 carries for 29 yards. Memphis ran the ball all over the field. This was a crazy rushing game in total. Memphis, 200-yard runners in this one. Brandon Thomas, 12 carries, 125 yards, a touchdown. Mario Anderson Jr., 17 carries, 117 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 catches for 17 yards. You had a Navy running back Eli Heidenreich. He caught a touchdown, as did his teammate running back Brandon Chapman. He caught a touchdown and ran a touchdown in. 2-touch day for him. Memphis wide receiver Kobe Drake, 9 catches, 102 yards, leading the game in receiving. Another 100-yard receiver for the Tigers, Rock Taylor, 6 for 100 and a score. Marcelo Bussey, another receiver for the Tigers, he caught a touchdown from Hennigan as well. And defensively, there's 2 guys, because how do you leave out linebacker Colin Ramos for the midshipman? He's like, Sean Dolak, I got you, bro. 20 tackles for Colin Ramos. However, couldn't beat Dolak. He only got 6 of them solos. Sacked, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass defense. And then Navy safety Raywan Lane III, 5 tackles, 3 solos, and the game-sealing 86-yard pick 6, because it was close. Like, Memphis was coming back. It was 49-44, Memphis got an onside kick, and they were coming. And then Lane intercepted Hennigan there to end the game. But yeah, so we had 655 total rushing yards in this game. 361 for Navy, 274 for the Tigers.
That's old school football right there.
Yeah. And total yards, 1,125. 659 for Memphis, 566 for Navy. I mean, we haven't seen that kind of Navy offense since what's his face? I forget the quarterback back in the day. In like the early 2010s, they had that one quarterback that set all the Navy records. I can't remember. Anyways, Navy plus 8.5 wins outright, over 46.5, 100 points even in that game. From that game to this game, number 12 Utah. This was 3-0 for a long time. Utah 22-19 over number 14 Oklahoma State. Yeah, I lost another lone wolf. What about it?
What about it?
I wasn't confident in Isaac Wilson being able to play on the road. Cam Rising was expected to start this game for the Utes, ended up sitting, and Isaac Wilson 2-0 now as the backup, as the starter, without Cam Rising the last two games, and massive win when you look at the Big 12 race. And but this is the kind of team that, you know, Logan and I, when we were doing our Big 12 rankings, you know, we thought Utah was going to be the team. They just haven't offensively gotten it together because of Rising's hand injury, but defensively, this is a excellent squad. Kyle Whittingham knows how to coach them. For Wilson, though, 58.6%, 207, one touchdown, 2 picks, 6 carries, 41 yards. For the Cowboys, Alan Bowman, 48.5%, 206, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Again, I've been negative on Alan Bowman the entire year so far. And the 1 week that I pick Oklahoma State to upset a top 15 team, he does. I'm Denny Green, man. He is who I thought he was.
And you left him off the hook.
He left me off the hook. Garrett Rangel also playing a bit in this one. He was terrible. 27.3%, 31 yards. Micah Bernard, massive game for the Utah running back. 25 carries, 182, a fumble, 2 catches, -2 yards. That's the interesting thing with Oklahoma State this year. Like, they have not been able to get Ollie Gordon going at all. Like, he was a monster last year, led the nation rushing over 1,500 rushing yards. I mean, I don't have his stats up right now, but I don't even know if he has 300 yards rushing this year so far through 4 games. I mean, it just has not been good. And I think it was interesting. I was listening, I think, to this game, or maybe it was College Game Day, and, like, you know, someone mentioned, like, yeah, like, last year they didn't see him coming. So now it's like this year everyone knows, like, Ollie Gordon's that dude. So they've been more prone to stopping the run. Maybe that's it. But yeah, it's been a struggle for Gordon and the rushing attack for the Pokes this year. Utah wide receiver Dorian Singer leading the game in receiving. The Arizona transfer, or USC transfer, was at Arizona, went to USC, and then I think to Utah. 7 for 95. Brant Keithy, 2 touchdown day for he's a tight end, actually. I don't know why I wrote wide receiver. He's a tight end. Caught one from Isaac Wilson and ran a 1-yard score in. I believe that's back-to-back games for Keithy with a rushing touchdown. Big tight end getting some fullback carries in the red zone. Oklahoma State wide receiver is Brennan Presley and Rashad Owens, catching touchdowns from Bowman. And then defensively is a big day on defense. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State, though. Safety Trey Rucker, 14 tackles, 5 of them solos, tackle for loss, 2 picks. Got both of the ones off Isaac Wilson. Utah covered -0.5 a point. Under 53.5. That was a lock, man. I should have bet that straight up, but of course it was in with like one other thing, and the other thing didn't hit. This was almost the biggest upset of the weekend, but number 7 Missouri squeaked it out, 30-27 in overtime over Vanderbilt. You gotta have the resiliency, though. You gotta love the resiliency for Mizzou's kicker. He missed 3 field goals in this game and comes back in overtime, hits the game winner. So, good on him. But, yeah, I mean, Mizzou, I forget how far they dropped from this one. They dropped down 4 spots. They're outside the top 10 now to 11.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, I mean, it was not impressive at all, considering how they had been playing. And I think the other thing that it wasn't impressive is that this is a home game. Like, this was in Columbia, Missouri. Vanderbilt should not have been able to do this. But Logan was right, though. And thankfully, I paid attention to Logan on Friday. And right after I wrote -20 Mizzou, I scratched it off once Logan started talking about Vanderbilt. So, yeah, I mean, I think Vandy is for real, and I think they could be really scary for some teams if they come into the game against Vandy in the SEC and think that it's the old Vandy. But Brady Cook, though, 62.2%, 226, 2 touchdowns. Jimmy, you and I are good. We don't have to worry about Logan hitting Brady Cook Heisman. He doesn't have the stats so far.
Phew, I was worried.
So it's down to you and I. And we'll see. We'll get the tiebreaker this weekend.
We might.
Jalen Miller versus Carson Beck this weekend.
It's gonna be a good one.
Diego Pavia, though, John Babington's old quarterback. New Mexico State transfer there, 60.9%, 178, 2 touchdowns, 17 carries, 84 yards. How about the App State transfer for Mizzou? Running back Nate Noel, monster game, 24 carries, 199 yards, 3 catches for 8 yards there. Marcus Carroll, the Georgia State transfer, he got in the end zone, as did Vanderbilt running back A.J. Newberry. Luther Burden, good game for him, 6 for 76, 2 touchdowns, leading the game in receiving. Vanderbilt wide receiver Joseph McVay also catching a touchdown, as did fullback Gabe Fisher, 2-yard touchdown for him. And defensively, I'm going to go with Vanderbilt linebacker Brian Longwell, 12 tackles, 6 solos, sack, 2.5 tackles for loss. Vandy plus 18.5, covered over 52.5. Another big score here, SMU 66-42, and we were all wrong. We all picked the Horned Frogs, and I'm not picking them again this year because they have absolutely zero defense. Their offense is fantastic. Josh Hoover continues to be a marvel for TCU, 65.1%, 396, 3 touchdowns, 4 turnovers, though, unfortunately. 2 picks, 1 rushing touchdown, 2 fumbles. That kind of cost them. Ken Seals, the Vandy transfer, 3 for 3, 19 yards, touchdown. Kevin Jennings, he got the start in this one, played the entire game for the Mustangs, 73.7%, 137, 2 touchdowns, 10 carries, 41 yards, and a fumble. For SMU, the Miami transfer, running back Brashard Smith, big day, 18 carries, 127 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 catches, 24 yards, and a receiving score. So 4 total touchdowns for Smith on the day. Touchdown going to running back Cam Cook for TCU, and monster receiving days for TCU wide receivers Jack Besh and Eric McAllister. Besh 8 for 166, 2 scores. McAllister 6 for 114 and a touchdown. TCU also got a touchdown reception to wide receiver Jordan Bailey, and then SMU, the other receiving score went to wide receiver Jordan Hudson. Defensively, dude, how crazy was this game for SMU? This was another one of those 2 defensive touchdowns, and a special team score. And when you look at it, that was the difference. It's a 24-point game. So, safety Ahmad Moses, 4 tackles, 2 solos, 1 pass defense, 2 picks. One of them was a 60-yard pick 6. Safety Brandon Crosley, 3 tackles, 2 solos, and a 51-yard fumble return for a touchdown. And then wide receiver Roderick Daniels Jr., 69-yard punt return, touchdown. All 3 phases. SMU, they were only a 2-point underdog, +2, wins outright by 24, over 58.5 easily, 108 in that game. Number 8, Miami, 50-15 over USF, and started off scary. It was USF had the momentum rolling. They had gotten I think it was a 12-7 lead or something like that. But Cam Ward became Cam Ward again in the second quarter, and the Canes rolled from there. 70.6 for Ward, 404, 3 touchdowns, a pick, 5 carries for 43 yards. Another excellent day for him. I think he's the Heisman frontrunner at this point. He's putting up monster stats, and Miami's continuing to destroy every single person they played. For Byram Brown and the Bulls here, 63.6%, or 63.3%, 254, 14 carries, 27 yards, a 12-yard receiving touchdown for the quarterback on a trick play. Bryce Archie also playing in this one, 50% for him, 37 yards, 2 picks. 100-yard night for Miami running back Jordan Lyle, 6 for 104, a touchdown. 3-touchdown night for the Oregon State transfer, running back Damian Martinez and the Canes. USF wide receiver Sean Atkins, 100-yard night for him, 11 for 125. And he threw the 12-yard touchdown pass to quarterback Byram Brown. Isaiah Horton for the Hurricanes, 100-yard day for him, 8 for 108 and a touchdown. And then my guy, every game I say this, but I love Xavier Restrepo. If you need a slot receiver next year's draft, go get Xavier Restrepo because he is a slot fiend. 6 for 199 and a touchdown for Restrepo. Miami wide receiver Samuel Brown also catching a score from Ward. Wasn't a ton defensively. I'm going to go with Miami defensive back Jaden Harris, though. 6 tackles, all of them solos. 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. Miami minus 15.5 covers easily over 63.5. Yes, sir. Number 6, Tennessee, 25-15 over number 15, Oklahoma. And, yeah, Oklahoma's just not ready yet for SEC. This score's not indicative. Tennessee thoroughly dominated this game. Oklahoma got 2 scores late. Also, though, I think Tennessee could have won this by a lot more, though. They dominated this entire game. The turnovers by Nico Iamaleava were not great. But the Tennessee defense, again, I think is the most surprising thing about this team this year is that they have been suffocating every single opponent they played. And it's going to be interesting when they play some of the, bigger, higher ranked teams. Because, and to be honest, they don't play a ranked team again until Alabama. However, they're on a bye this week. But they better be ready, though, when they come out of that bye. Because I am not discounting having to go to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And I talked about Taylon Green earlier. Taylon Green's a hard player to stop. So I would not put it past Arkansas and Tennessee. They better be on upset watch going to Fayetteville. Just saying. We'll talk about that more in 2 weeks. But anyways. For Nico here, 61.9%, 194 touchdown, 8 carries, 15 yards, 2 fumbles. Oklahoma, I don't know if there's necessarily a quarterback controversy there, but Jackson Arnold did not play well at all. 43.8%, 54 yards, a pick, 2 fumbles. And the freshman, Michael Hawkins Jr., he didn't play bad, but he played a lot better than Arnold did. So 61.1%, 132 touchdown, 12 carries for 22 yards. Dylan Sampson continues his great season, 92 yards on 24 carries, a touchdown, and 2 touchdown night for Oklahoma. Running back Javonte Barnes, 1 on the ground, 1 through the air. Wide receiver Brew McCoy for the Volunteers led the game in receiving, 92 yards on 4 catches, and the lone passing touchdown went to Tennessee wide receiver Dante Thornton Jr., the Oregon transfer. Defensively, I'm going to go with Oklahoma defensive lineman Trace Ford, 3 tackles, all of them solos, 1 tackle, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. Tennessee minus 5.5 covered, under 56.5. What I really should have done is put the Tennessee spread with the Oklahoma State under. Those were my 2 most confident plays of the weekend for college. Number 25, Texas A&M, 26-20 against Bowling Green. What is the issue with Bowling Green? Like, people cannot get Bowling Green on the ground when they come to town. I know they're 1-2, but 2 losses are pretty good. They handled Penn State for 3 quarters in Happy Valley, and they handled Texas A&M for 4 quarters in College Station. So, hey man, we should put Bowling Green in the top 25 because of how well they played against ranked opponents. Anyways, I was shocked that A&M stayed in the rankings. They actually moved up a spot because of all the people that lost. But yeah, I was shocked that they stayed in the rankings after this game. Connor Bazelak for the Falcons, though, 55.6%, 250, a touchdown, a pick. Marcel Reed, the freshman, getting his first start of the year. Maybe second. I can't remember if he started last week or not for Connor Wegman. 55.2%, though, 173, 2 touchdowns, 12 carries for 91 yards. That's indicative of, modern freshman quarterbacks. Most of them a lot better running the ball than they are throwing early in their career. Texas A&M running back Le'Veon Moss, 90 yards on 16 carries and a fumble. And how often is it that your leading receiver and the most potent weapon that you have, most dangerous player that you have, is your tight end, especially in college football with the explosion of receivers that we have nowadays? Bowling Green relies on their tight end, Harold Fannin Jr. He probably has like 500 receiving yards already. He's been a beast. 8 catches, 145 yards, touchdown. A&M also getting touchdowns to wide receiver Jade Walker. Tight end Theo Melon Orstrom. He is from Switzerland, I think. I can't remember. He is European for sure. Raheem Smith, the wide receiver of Bowling Green, also 40-yard rushing touchdown there. Yeah, Theo Melon Orstrom, Stockholm, Sweden. There you go, Swedish player there. I didn't know we were talking hockey today, Jimmy.
That's on
A&M defensive lineman Shamar Turner is my defensive player of the game. 2 tackles, both of them solos. Sack, 2 tackles for loss. Bowling Green plus 22.5 covers easily, under 51.5. But the Hawkeyes getting some offense. 31-14 over Minnesota. Getting the pig back. Getting Floyd. Floyd of Rosedale, the pig. Got him back after losing to Minnesota last year. But this is an old Big Ten West rivalry. No more divisions in the Big Ten this year, but Iowa doing a great job, especially on the ground. But Max Brosmer for the Gophers, 59.5%, 209, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Cade McNamara for Iowa, 57.9%, just 62 yards, so not great passing. Didn't matter. They have this guy named Caleb Johnson who has been fantastic for Iowa this year. 21 carries, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns for Johnson on the night. Excellent day for him. Iowa also got a rushing touchdown by backup quarterback Brendan Sullivan, the Northwestern transfer. Minnesota wide receiver Daniel Jackson led the game in receiving, 9 catches, 112 yards. That's pretty crazy. 112 out of the 209 yards that Brosmer threw for. Touchdown receptions also going to wide receiver Elijah Spencer, tight end Jamison Gears for the Gophers. Defensively, I'm going to go with Iowa linebacker Nick Jackson. He's one of my favorite linebackers. Might be my Big Ten linebacker that I fall in love with every year because there's always one. 8 tackles, 2 solos, 1 sack, 1.5 tackles for loss, 2 pass defense. Iowa minus 2.5 covers over 34.5. Who would have thought the over would hit an Iowa game? Number 5, Ole Miss, 52-13 over Georgia Southern. Jackson Dart continues to roll, 71%, 382, 4 touchdowns, a pick, 5 carries, 36 yards. Gasso, quarterback J.C. French, 71.4%, 109, a pick. Dexter Williams, second, getting in a little bit of work, 2 of 4, 50%, 36 yards, 3 carries for 19 yards. Ole Miss running back Henry Parrish Jr. leading the game in rushing, 89 yards on 13 carries and a score. His teammate, running back Dominique Thomas, rushing touchdown for him. Gasso got a passing touchdown, 12-yard passing touchdown for running back O.J. Arnold. How about the night for wide receiver Trey Harris for the Rebels here? 11 receptions, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns. Crazy good player. Trey Harris, I saw him last year. I noticed him. He had some excellent performances down the stretch for the Rebels and continued into this season for him. Juice Wells got a score, the South Carolina transfer there. Gasso getting a receiving touchdown for wide receiver Derwin Burgess Jr. He caught that score from Arnold there. And then another receiving touchdown went to Duke transfer wide receiver Jordan Watkins. Or not Duke transfer. He's been at Ole Miss, I believe. And defensively, it's got to be the big man. Ole Miss defense tackle J.J. Pegues. 3 tackles, 2 solos, 1 tackle for loss, a fumble recovery, and a 1-yard rushing touchdown. Ole Miss minus 35.5 covered, under 68.5. Number 1, Texas, 51-3 over UL Monroe. And no, there is not a quarterback controversy in Austin. I think a lot of people thought Arch Manning was going to play a lot better. He really played. He's not a freshman anymore. He's a sophomore. But, I mean, first start, it was so
He played okay for a first start.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how he played so well last week against a better opponent. I think UTSA is a better team than UL Monroe. Coming in for Quinn Ewers, he came off the bench and played extremely well. Maybe just because maybe UTSA wasn't ready for him. I don't know. UL Monroe got a whole week to prepare.
Yeah. And also just like probably he was riding high for being called into the game. And like having a full week to set up going into a game probably got in his head.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you also, I guess, prepare differently as a backup than a starter and whatnot. Plus, I think it also could have been nerves, first start of his career. So, anyways, 51.7%, 258, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Didn't end up costing, luckily for them. It's your favorite player, Jimmy, starting for the Warhawks this year, General Booty.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. 42.1%, 42 yards a pick, 1 reception for minus 7 yards. Aiden,
this guy needs to start a grocery chain that is like pirate themed, and call his stores General Booty. I mean, it's perfect. It's right there. It's right there. He's got to go for it.
Well, I don't think it's be a grocery store. I think you could just like do like a knick-knack kind of store. Like,
ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're thinking.
Yeah. Let's get him on the call.
He'll be our first NIL client.
Yes, sir. Aiden Armenta, he came in, played a little bit for the Warhawks, 50%, 3 of 6, 12 yards and a pick. Great day for Texas running back Jaden Blue, 25 carries, 124 yards, 3 touchdowns. You're my boy Blue. 3-yard rushing touchdown. I had to get that in. 3-yard receiving touchdown as well. 4 scores for Blue on the day. Touchdown rush for his teammate Jarrett Gibson. Ahmad Hardy, the leading rusher for the Warhawks there. Tied with leading rusher, actually, for Taven Curry. Ryan Niblett. I mean, the NIL possibilities are there for Niblett as well. I mean, yeah. You got to have some NILs with the Nibster. He ran a touchdown in for the Horns here. Leading the game in receiving, Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond, 2 for 75. Touchdown by another great freshman receiver, Ryan Wingo, for Texas. And then defensively, I'm going to go with Texas linebacker Leona Lefau. 7 tackles, 4 solos, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. Texas minus 41.5 covered. And how about the over hitting? 53.5. Because UM Monroe kicked the field goal. Thank you.
Thank you, UM Monroe.
I think this was the shock of the weekend.
Easily. Big
12 after dark. I told you weird stuff happens in Provo, Utah at night. And weird stuff did happen. I was listening to this game. BYU 38-9 demolition of number 13 Kansas State. And it was just compounding mistake. So I think the craziest part of this game, K-State's up 6-3. About a minute and a half to go in the first half. 6-3, they're up. JD Giddens fumbles. BYU returns it for a touchdown. So you're like, all right. We're down 10-6. Still not crazy. On the road. We still got enough time because not that much time went off the clock with that play. So there's still like about a minute to go. The next play. I think it was the next play. Might have been 2 plays. Avery Johnson throws an interception. BYU goes down, throws a touchdown. And in a blink of an eye, in like a minute, K-State's down 17-6 going into halftime. It's just crazy. And then, I mean, Kansas State couldn't get the offense going all night. And they got stopped on 4th down quite a bit as well. And, I mean, you got to give up to Kalani Sitake's crew for getting up for this game. And you got to give it up to Brian Billick as well. I don't know if you saw his pregame speech he gave like the day before, a couple days before to BYU. BYU, great Brian Billick. He was a tight end in the 70s for the Cougars. So, yeah. But yeah, Jake Retzlaff was excellent. 71.4%, 149, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, and that's what killed Kansas State all night. Turnovers. Avery Johnson, 53.6%, 132 picks, 11 carries, 74 yards. DJ Giddens led the game in rushing, 93 yards, 19 carries, but the costly fumble that led to the touchdown. And I don't know how to say this kid's name, but Sione Moa. I guess it's an I. Like it's really odd that it's like right in the middle in between his first and last name, but I'm going with it. He ran a touchdown in, the freshman there. Jace Brown. I was calling for the Kansas State to get him more involved. Like the passing game just wasn't there all night for the Wildcats, but Jace Brown's their leading receiver, and I thought they should have got him more involved. Just 4 catches, 51 yards. Did lead the game in receiving, though. Retzlaff's passing touchdowns going to wide receivers Chase Roberts and Darius Lassiter. Defensively, it's the one defensive score and the one special teams score. That's that was another crazy thing about this game. Like the punt return by Parker Kensington was ridiculous. Caught the ball over the shoulder, over his left shoulder, and then he runs back to loop around from the right sideline to the left sideline and gets a 90-yard punt return touchdown. Safety Tommy Prassis, though, is my defensive player of the game. 2 tackles and a 30-yard fumble return for a touchdown. BYU plus 7.5 wins outright under 48.5. FCS game of the week. It was a close one. Number 4, Idaho, getting it done, though, at number 19, Abilene Christian, 27-24 for the Vandals. Maverick McIver for the Wildcats here, 56.5%, 288, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a fumble. You got to look at that when you're talking about a 3-point game. I mean, 3 turnovers from your quarterback. That's why you lost. It has to be. Jack Wagner for the Vandals, 51.4%, 253, 2 touchdowns. Leading the game in rushing was Idaho running back Nate Thomas, 15 carries, 64 yards, a touchdown, 1-yard reception. Isaiah Johnson for ACU, he scored on the ground as well. Idaho wide receiver Jordan Dwyer, 91 yards on 5 catches and a touchdown, late in the game. His teammate wide receiver Mark Hamper. Dude, we're talking about NIL deal. Like, bro, where's this man's hamper line? Like, we can sell hampers with Hamper all day. He caught a touchdown from Wagner there. Nehemiah Martinez, the first, catching a score, as did his teammate J.J. Henry. And defensive plays of the game here going to Idaho, all 3 of them. Defensive backs Kyron Beecham and Tommy McCormick with interceptions, and defensive back Matt Irwin with a fumble recovery. Abilene Christian, though, did cover plus 13.5 over 48.5. On to NFL. You got us, man. You got the Lone Wolf Eagles, 15-12 over the Saints in NOLA.
In NOLA, yeah. I called it.
Well, I mean, dude, the Georgia boys showed up. Like, I was calling for the Georgia kids to show up, and they did. Jalen Carter had an outstanding game. So did Nakobe Dean, and Jordan Davis played a lot better than he had the first 2 weeks of the season. So I think that's where you saw it defensively were those couple players. Quinyon Mitchell has been outstanding as a rookie so far. The thing is, though, like, the Eagles should have blown the Saints out, man. And they thoroughly outgained them on offense. And it's the decision-making again from Nick Sirianni. Like, bro, what are we doing? The first 4th down I was okay with. I wasn't okay with the play call. It was horrendous. Like, bro, do the tush push. You haven't got stopped all year on it yet. Like, do the tush push. I don't care for this stupid little outside handoff to Saquon Barkley, even though I love Saquon. He's one of the reasons we won this game. But no, like put Jalen Hurts in the tush push and get it done. And then the second 4th down I hated. Or maybe that Saquon one was the second 4th down. I don't remember. But the second 4th down, when they were down 3-0, I'm like, bro, tie the game. Like, you're in field goal range, tie the game.
Yeah, you think Sirianni would learn from last week of leaving points on the board.
Yeah. But I did agree with what Greg Olson said on the call. He's like, for everything Nick Sirianni isn't, one thing he is consistent. He will continue to call 4th down plays and call runs on 3rd and medium to get to 4th and short and run the ball on 4th down. So got to give it to him. He's sticking to his guns, sticking to his philosophy, and that's one thing I love about Nick Sirianni. But
it's also probably one thing you hate about Nick Sirianni.
I think it would have been more of an issue had they not won, just like it was last week when they lost. But also, dude, Jalen Hurts got a hold on the freaking ball, man. Like, I think this is 6 turnovers through 3 games. Like, dude, come on.
Yeah, he's got to figure it out.
And also, another thing Greg Olson said was the splits when Jalen rolls left is crazy. How bad he is when he rolls left. And I think when I saw that fumble, I got PTSD from the Super Bowl. Because I felt like it was the same thing. Like he rolled left a little bit. Wasn't as much like running, but he kind of rolled left and then fumbled the ball. But anyways, happy we got the win. A lot closer than it should have been, but got to give it up. Saquon Barkley was, I mean, what he has been. He's been fantastic. He's been absolutely fantastic this year. Dallas Goedert, most receiving yards by a tight end in Eagles history in a game, which I don't know where that came, but he was on my bench in like 2 leagues. So that was nice. 27 points on the bench was great. But yeah, so Jalen here, 76.3%, 311, a pick, 8 carries, 25 yards, a fumble. Derek Carr, I don't know, like, what happened. Like, Vic Fangio just got him.
Figured him out.
Yeah. Well, I think also is like we saw he was 0 for 5 on throws to Rashid Shaheed. They couldn't get that deep bomb going in this game.
Mm-hmm. I think the Saints, as we saw for the first 2 weeks, are big play merchants. They really like to set themselves up to like have that explosive play 20, 25 yards down the field. And the Eagles did a good job of just preventing that. You know, Shaheed 0 for 5, as you mentioned. I don't remember a single play they really had that was over like 20 yards. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of their best plays were just drops in coverage against Chris Olave. Was he got wide open on a couple of them and made that spectacular receiving touchdown to get the Saints up. But yeah, and the Eagles did a great job on Alvin Kamara. I mean, held him to 3.3 yards per carry. And again, that was testament to Jalen Carter really wrecking inside, especially once Eric McCoy got injured. The interior pressure for Jalen Carter was fantastic. Derek Carr, though, 56%, 142 touchdown and a pick. Was horrendous on my fantasy team this week. It's fantastic. Saquon, 17 carries, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches for 9 yards, and he got a 2-point conversion as well. He ran, 21.66 miles an hour, I think, on that long 60-yard touchdown that he had.
Still got it.
Yeah. Tight end Dallas Goedert, I mentioned, massive game, 10 catches, 170 yards on 11 targets, and he had to. Once Devontae Smith went out, he was the only guy, him and Saquon. Like, those were the players. Which, by the way, that was bullshit on Devontae Smith, bro. How there was not a flag. I don't care if, like, he actually ended up contacting him in the back first. From everything that I saw on that hit, it was helmet to helmet, and the man's helmet came off. Like, I don't know how there wasn't a flag on the field for that. Chris Olave scoring a touchdown from Carr on the day, and Devontae Smith, big target share for him, 10, caught 7 for 79. And defensively, I know Jalen Carter. I mean, Jalen Carter doesn't probably have the best stats of the people on here. Carl Granderson, Brian Bresee were 2 of the best players on defense for the Saints. But Jalen Carter is my defense player of the game. I mean, he was wrecking. 4 tackles, 3 of them solos, 2 tackles for loss, 2 pass defense, then a QB hit. And how about what's his face? Why can't I think of his name right now? The Saints corner. Their slot guy.
Lattimore? That's not him, right?
No, it's not Lattimore. It's not a Debo who's listed there. It's dude, I can't think of it right now. Anyways, crazy.
Are you thinking Willie Gay or Alontae Taylor?
Alontae Taylor, that's the kid. Yeah, crazy, dude. He's a slot. He's a nickel. And the man has 4 sacks through 3 games. That's ridiculous. I believe he's the Saints leader in sacks right now. Eagles, though, plus 2.5 went outright, under 48.5. And you know what's crazy this week also? For one, I didn't know that all three of my teams were going to win. And for two, we went let's see. We went 6-0 on the pod here for our
boys
teams.
are winners.
You know, the Eagles won, the Steelers won, the Panthers won for me, Vikings won for you, Packers won for Logan, and the Seahawks won for John.
We're all feeling good this week. This is a week of celebration.
I knew I should have put the podcast parlay in.
Dude, the best friends parlay. That's what it's called. Speaking of you boys.
Yeah, dude, the Steelers 20-10 over the Chargers. One of the few teams left standing, 3-0. I think the 72 Dolphins are getting scared.
Oh. We might have 2 undefeated teams in the Super Bowl. Think about
it. Yeah, dude. I mean, the Steelers are looking good, and it didn't start off well. Chargers got out to a 10-7 lead. But, dude, I think the tides are turning on my Justin Fields hate. I really do. I mean, he's been impressive, and this was the first time out of the first 3 games that, like, he looked like a very competent passer. 78.1%. I mean, he's been efficient every game. I believe he's had 70+% all 3 games. And 245, so that's a decent yardage total. Might want to get that a little bit up off 25 completions. You know, a little bit under 10 yards to completion, not great. But touchdown, did have the interception, which was fluky. I mean, got batted up and then batted around by a couple different players. Eventually, I thought it was kind of funny that Bud Dupree picked him off after being a former first-round pick for the Steelers. And then he scored a rushing touchdown as well. So I think Justin Fields is playing the best ball of his career. And I feel like we've said this like a million times, but sometimes it's all it takes is a change of scenery. And I knew Russell Wilson was going to really like this offense because of the, emphasis on running the ball, play action, under center stuff. But Justin Fields is doing the same stuff. And he's even more potent because of the ability for him to run the ball, which we saw on the rushing touchdown that he had. So,
yeah, I mean, until Justin Fields makes a mistake, like, Russ, you're right in the bench. Like, there's no way you take him out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of crazy, I feel like a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, the Steelers are winning these like low-scoring games." Like, so, like
they're winning.
They're the only
teams from scoring. That's their MO.
Right, and I believe they're the only team in the NFL to allow 10 or less points in all 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, this defense is like it's championship defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once they've been doing this all 3 weeks where it's like, all right, they get a lead, bro. And when you got to pass in the fourth quarter against this Pittsburgh, you're not going to. You got TJ Watt, you got Alex Highsmith. And even when Alex Highsmith got hurt in this game, guess what? We got a second-year player named Nick Herbig that had a monster game. He had 2 sacks in this one.
Mm-hmm.
2 sacks, 4 pressures off of 8 pass rush snaps. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, the Steelers are loaded, and while their offense hasn't been crazy, they're doing enough. They outscored the Chargers 10-0 in the fourth quarter. So, or in the second half. No, it was in the fourth quarter because I think it was 10-7 at halftime. I don't remember. Anyways. Justin Herbert, though, 66.7%, 125 touchdown, re-aggravated his ankle in this one. Taylor Heineke came in, completed both of his passes for 24 yards. Najee Harris leading the game in rushing, 70 yards on 18 carries, 5 catches, caught all 5 of his targets for 16 yards. Yeah, and that's another thing. They shut down the Chargers' rushing attack. J.K. Dobbins just 44 yards in this one. I told you, man, Cam Hayward. You got the lone wolf on the Eagles. He didn't get the lone wolf on the Chargers here, Jimmy.
I tried.
And how about Calvin Austin leading the game in receiving 95 yards on 4 receptions, caught 4 of his 5 targets, and one of those receptions was a 55-yard touchdown. So maybe he's the guy that that will step up to be that number 2 receiver outside of Pickens there. Because it's been heavy Pickens and Freiermuth so far in the passing game, but they're still hoping that there's another guy that they can get going, and maybe it's Calvin Austin here. Quentin Johnston continues to be hot. He's got 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. And defensively, I mean, take your pick. It was a good defensive performance on both sides. I'm going to go back to my guy Nick Herbig though. 3 tackles, all of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 QB hits.
Mm-hmm. Good pick.
Steelers minus 2.5 here, covered under 35.5.
Woo!
Here you go, your boys, 34-7, just destroying the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say I'm a little optimistic. I didn't think it would be anything like this. I'm blown away from what I just saw with these Vikings.
Yeah, I messaged for everyone out there. I messaged Jimmy in our group chat, and I was like, 2024 Vikings equals 1985 Bears. Because I mean,
the truth,
the way that Brian Flores has these boys playing on defense is
dude
great.
Is a demon over there. Like he's the Grim Reaper of offenses.
Yeah, and it's yeah, I mean, from the first play was a tipped interception. So, yeah, I don't think there is no one out there that can tell us with a straight face that they saw this coming.
I didn't even pick the Vikings. I said on Friday, like, hey, we won against 49ers playing with house money, but I even said, like, I think we'll come down to earth, but we'll make it good. I even said, like, oh, we'll make it competitive. I didn't expect a blowout.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, and the craziest thing was not just the defense, like you said, though. When the defense gave their offense the ball back, I mean, Sam Darnold took advantage. 4 touchdowns.
It was. I was texting my dad and my brother about this game. It was like, this feels like the 49ers game, except we didn't make mistakes. Like the 49ers game, we had 2 red zone turnovers that turned into points for the 49ers. This game was just like perfect. We didn't turn the ball over. We didn't take dumb penalties. The crowd was into it. Did you see the crowd cause 4 straight Texans offensive penalties to get them out of field goal range?
Yeah.
It was the most insane thing.
It turned a 3rd and 4 into a 4th and 19.
Yeah, and it went from easy kick for Kai Fairburn to a punt. And I mean, I think the craziest part was Kai Fairburn missed a field goal, and then we made a long field goal. I was like, this doesn't usually happen. We're the Vikings. Like, players make like career-long field goals every week, and we miss all the heartbreaking ones. But like, roles were reversed somehow this week. But yeah, I mean, if there was anything that went wrong in the Viking game, I'm still trying to find it.
Well, we'll talk about the Darnold injury in a second,
or lack thereof.
But yeah, CJ Stroud, worst game of his career so far.
Oh, yeah.
64.5%, 215 touchdown, 2 picks, 3 carries for 12 yards. Sam Darnold, like I said, was fantastic. 60.7%, 181, 4 touchdowns. Davis Mills, though, you know, I know Brian Flores is kind of calling the dogs off a little bit at the end there. 58.3%, 79 yards for Mills. But you know what they did? They didn't let the touchdown up at the end.
Nope.
And I stopped watching it after, like early in the 4th quarter or whatever it was. So I didn't see any of the Davis Mills plays. But what I did see on the play-by-play was they threw it like to Nico Collins 4 times in the goal to go situation.
Yeah, they threw it to him in the end zone 4 straight plays, and he couldn't catch it.
And I was like, bro, I need those fantasy points. Why?
I needed fantasy points too. I had the Vikings defense. They held off. Let's go.
Well, I did not start the Vikings defense stupidly this week.
Dude, I've started them in 3 straight weeks, and it's been great.
I had other options and that had better matchups, and they still didn't score as much as the Vikings. Anyways, Aaron Jones, man, 100-yard performance, 19 carries, 102 yards, 5 catches, 46 yards receiving score on 6 targets. He's still got a little bit left in the tank. I was pissed, however, like, bro, he didn't have enough left in the tank when he ran and didn't score. He got tackled at the 2-yard line or whatever it was on that big run. I was like, bro, come on, get in the end zone.
Refuse.
Cam Akers, his first start for the Texans, 8-yard receiving touchdown. Otherwise, Texans couldn't run the ball at all. Stephon Diggs, pretty good day, even though they got demolished. Pretty good day against his former team. 94 yards on 10 receptions, caught 10 of 12 targets. Also threw a 13-yard pass. Nico Collins, double-digit targets for him, 10, caught 4 of the 10. Obviously, like we said, 4 of those on the last series there, incompletions. So kind of inflated target stats for Nico there. 86 yards, though. JJ caught a touchdown. Jalen Naylor caught a touchdown. Johnny Munt caught a touchdown. There, and then Aaron Jones was the 4th one for Darnold as well. And then defensively, I mean, who are you going with?
Oh, I'm going with Gennard.
Yeah.
Gennard had a beast of a game. 4 tackles, 3 solos, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 3 QB hits. He lives in threes, apparently.
And it was a revenge game.
A revenge game, yeah. I remember I saw an interview after the game in his first sack where he just ran over Stover and right to CJ Stroud. He's like, they put a rookie tight end on me? On me? Do they not know who I am?
Yeah. I don't know how they didn't prepare for Greenard after having him on their team for the last 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing too. I mean, you look week by week, different defensive end and outside linebacker for the Viking has just blown the doors open. First week it was Van Geekel. Last week it was Cashman. This week it was Grenard. I always mess his name up, but like, yeah, like we got dogs on the outside, and they'll come at you in waves.
For sure. All right, yeah, the Vikings plus 1.5 went outright. Under 46.5. This was another surprise this weekend. Like the Broncos going into Tampa and just handling the Bucs. This game also, just like the Vikings game, this was done from the first drive of the game. Yeah. Bo Nix went right down the field, 4 for 4, 70 yards, and they got a touchdown. He ran a touchdown in on the first drive, and all Broncos from there on out, 26-7. Yeah, I mean, I could not see this coming. Like from what we saw from Denver the first 2 weeks, they couldn't block anyone on the offensive line. Their defense was allowing rushing yards left and right. But, you know, it is crazy. So, anyways, Bo Nix, 69.4%, 216, 9 carries, 47 yards, touchdown. Let's get that first passing TD next week, though, Bo. We gotta get checked out off the list. Baker, while ultra efficient, 75.8%, only 163 yards on 25 completions, touchdown, a pick, and the turnovers were adding up for the Bucs all day. I think they had 2. Bucky Irving, though, I tried to tell y'all on Friday, he is taking this job. 70 yards on 9 carries, tied for the lead in rushing with another rookie, undrafted running back Tyler Beatty, 9 carries, 70 yards. Irving, though, 3 catches for 14 yards as well. And like I said, dude, he's the better player, more explosive than Rachaad White is. He's just as good in the receiving game. So get your Bucky Irving shares now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, What was I saying at draft time? Bucky was my favorite running back in the draft. I've liked this kid since day one.
Yeah. I got him in a couple of dynasty leagues. Jaleel McLaughlin scoring a rushing touchdown for Denver here. Broncos wide receiver Cortland Sutton leading the game in receiving, 7 for 68 on 11 targets, and Chris Godwin catching a touchdown. And then defensively, I mean, how about the day for Broncos linebacker Dondre Tillman? 3 tackles, all of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles lost, 3 QB hits, man. He's a spring football guy coming over from the UFL and the Birmingham Stallions. Having a great day. Broncos plus 5.5 covered. Win outright under 40.5. Packers, go Pack, go! You and I, man, we got the dog on this one. We got 2 wins, 30-14 over the Titans. Why, Jimmy? Because the Titans suck.
They stink. I mean, more specifically, Will Levis sucks. I think their defense is halfway all right, and their weapons are okay. It really is just Will Levis just bad at football.
Was it you that texted in the group chat the gift that keeps on giving?
Oh yeah, Levis is the gift that keeps on giving. Every week there's a new image of him just looking so stupid, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I was impressed by Malik Willis, man. I didn't watch this game. I was watching other ones, but Malik Willis was fantastic. I mean, they finally got the ball in the air a little bit with him as the interior rushing attack was kind of stymied, but he ran the ball well also and put it on his former team, which was nice to do as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I got to give a lot of credit to LaFleur. Like, he lost his QB and immediately had a game plan to make Willis succeed. I mean, not a lot of coaches can do that. Like, he came in, he's like, all right, I got Willis. He doesn't have a rocket arm. He's not uber accurate, but we're going to give him safe passes and get him moving. And it's worked.
Yeah. Levis here, 76.5%, 260, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 3 carries, 12 yards, and a fumble. Love having 3 turnovers, Will Levis. Thank you. Malik Willis, 68.4%, 202 touchdowns, 6 carries, 73 yards, a rushing score as well. Emmanuel Wilson, surprised he was the leading non-quarterback rusher on the day, 50 yards on 12 carries, 2 catches, 35 yards, and a receiving score. God, I needed Josh Jacobs to score a touchdown. That would have been nice. Titans wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins leading the game in receiving, 6 for 73, touchdown on 7 targets. Tight end Nick Vannett also catching a touchdown from Levis, and then there was a whole host of defensive plays in this one. I'm going to go with Jair, though. Packers corner Jair Alexander, 5 tackles, 4 solos, pass defense, and a 35-yard pick 6. But the big man up front, Devontae Wyatt, Kingsley Enagbare, both outstanding on the day. Packers plus 2.5 went outright over 36.5. The Giants, yeah, I mean, another surprise. God, what were the Browns doing? I have no clue. Giants 21-15 over Cleveland. Is Danny Dimes back? I guess.
I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, I mean, he found Malik Neighbors, and that connection was the reason they won this game. That and Deshaun Watson is just bad at football.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've seen a QB with worse pocket presence this season than Deshaun Watson. I mean, he doesn't get it.
Yeah, Daniel Jones here, definitely the best performance of his season. 70.6%, 236, 2 touchdowns, 8 carries for 20 yards. Deshaun Watson, 56.8%, 196, 2 touchdowns, 4 carries, 26 yards, 2 fumbles. Turnovers not good. And the thing is, like, they were in this. Like, the Cleveland defense kept them in it most of the game. and they got it to one score and just couldn't move past the 50 after that. Devin Singletary, probably his best game as a Giant, 65 yards on 16 carries, touchdown. Did have a fumble, 4 catches for 43 yards as well. Again, though, this was the second time this year the Browns struggled to run the ball. I was questioning when I looked at this game and the stats, where was Deontay Foreman? Like last week, he got a ton of carries. This week, he got like 2.
Nah, I have no idea. I didn't see anything about like injuries or if he got knocked up or anything during the game, but like, yeah, it was pretty bad.
So there has literally been no consistency in this backfield in terms of number of carries, and they're just struggling. Well, they had the offensive line injuries, obviously, and they did. No Nick Chubb has been horrendous for this offense. Amari Cooper, though, the big bright spot for Cleveland offensively, sitting on my bench. Because why would I start him after the first 2 weeks? I don't know who was crazy enough to start Amari after what he produced the first 2 games, but good for you if you did. 7 for 86, 2 touchdowns on 12 targets, leading the game in receiving. And I mentioned Malik Neighbors. The rookie has been fantastic through 2 games. 8 for 78, 2 touchdowns, all 12 targets, also 2 carries for 4 yards, 0 for 1 passing. Defensively, I am going to go with Giants defense tackle Dexter Lawrence, 3 tackles, 2 solos, 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, 4 QB hits. Brian Burns was excellent as well, even coming in questionable with a groin injury there. Giants plus 6.5 went out right under 37.5. Bro, I was so mad at this game. Like, come on. Chicago, he got 363 yards from Caleb Williams and he still didn't win. How? I don't.
Well, those yards are deceiving. I mean, 52 pass attempts.
I know.
Both those touchdowns are just meh.
But he had 3 turnovers,
mm-hmm.
which were costly, especially the fumble. But that wasn't even his fault. They put a freaking tight end on the best pass rusher that the Colts have in Laiatu Latu. Like, bro, come on. Like, what are we doing? And they still can't protect Caleb Williams. So, I don't know. I don't know what the Bears are going to do. He finally threw a touchdown, which was nice to see. But I still don't think the Bears are as bad, as they've played. Like, there are definitely signs that this team could produce some good plays this year.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, it's very rare to be able to just go, yeah, it is purely coaching, but, like, it really is. Waldron on the OC is just bad. He's just not good at this.
John tried to tell us.
Oh, he knows. He knew. I mean, and I'm sorry, but, like, QBs, especially just young developing QBs, are always a product of coaching in their line. And the Bears probably have 2 of the worst. I mean, yeah. I was talking to a bunch of Bear fans in my other podcast. I was like, I just don't understand why the Bears didn't even like consider signing a veteran quarterback in the offseason. Just to be like, hey, here's a guy you could like throw to the wolves if things get bad, or if you want to like keep Williams off the field for a week or 2 to start the season. Since, I mean, I've said this for a while. I thought Williams was raw coming out of college. Mm-hmm. I thought like he was still extremely raw, and he could have been one of those QBs that needed a week or 2 in the regular season to watch. But yeah, I mean, I don't get what the Bears are doing. I think the Bears are going to somehow take what was supposed to be the most obvious QB prospect since, I don't know, who do you think was the most obvious one in the last bit? Burrow,
Andrew
Luck.
Yeah, Burrow.
Burrow and Luck, I feel like they were last 2. Like, oh, he's obvious number 1. Lawrence maybe, but he kind of fell off. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like if they somehow screw up Williams, just fold the franchise. Like, you'll never get a QB then.
Jimmy, I know you got to go, but before you do, did you have any any comments on the rest of the games or on the games, the 2 games tonight or the game on Thursday?
Nothing really on the rest of the games. I would say just for this one, I saw a tweet. This is about Anthony Richardson. I feel like it just personifies him perfectly. Anthony Richardson can make the passes 99% of QBs can't make, and he can't make the passes 99% of QBs can make. Like, he is the most, just him and Caleb Williams just seem like the same side, two sides of the same coin. It's like, my God, these guys are raw, and they just need a lot of help from coaching to like really figure out their game. But yeah, I mean, that's the last I've got so far. So I'm gonna hop off. I'm glad Sam Darnold's not as hurt as many people thought he could have been. That's my last thing. But yeah.
All right, man. Yeah, Anthony Richardson, man, he's been a turnover machine, and the Colts are lucky to have won this game because Caleb Williams turned the ball over. But Anthony Richardson, only 50%, 167, 2 picks, 8 carries for 24 yards. I mean, he's just not playing winning football right now. And again, luckily, the Colts defense played well enough, and Caleb Williams gave them the ball with some short fields, and they got a great performance by Jonathan Taylor. Otherwise, the Colts will be 0-3. So it's really, I don't know how the Colts are going to go and win a bunch of games the rest of this year because Anthony Richardson is not playing like the guy they need him to play like. And I think only 8 carries for 24 yards is kind of a detriment to his skill set because when he was playing super well last year before he got hurt, that was what was winning them games and, making those explosive running plays. I know they don't want him to take the hits necessarily, but he's a big quarterback. He can take those types of hits. So I think not having him as involved in the rushing attack is not how Shane Steichen's going to win games in Indianapolis. But passing the ball is not Anthony Richardson's strong suit right now, and he's turning it over. So that's why they're losing. But anyways, like I said, Jonathan Taylor was fantastic. 23 carries, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, 25-yard reception as well. I thought another interesting one for this game, the Bears couldn't run the ball. Like the Colts are one of the worst rushing defenses in the first 2 weeks, and they couldn't do anything on the ground. Rashawn Johnson led them in rushing, actually, 30 yards on 8 carries. DeAndre Swift has been poultry as a Bear so far. He's been buoyed by some in the receiving game a little bit, but other than that, like Swift has not been the guy, and I think the Eagles are like giving a nice grin because they let him go in free agency, and they're doing pretty well without him. So Trey Sermon also getting a touchdown on one of his 2 carries in this one for Indy. Roma Dunze, how about the 100-yard day for the rookie? 6 catches, 112 yards, touchdown on 11 targets. Cole Kmet also met big day for him. Caught 10 of his 11 targets for 97 yards and a touchdown. 10 targets for DJ Moore as well. It caught 8 for 78. And defensively, it's going to be for me, I'm going to go with Bears linebacker Tremaine. I'm going to go with Colts corner Jalen Jones, 5 tackles, 4 solos, 1 tackle for loss, 2 pass defense, and 2 picks. The Colts -2.5 covered under 43.5. How about the Panthers? 36-22 over the Raiders, crushing the Raiders in Vegas. Andy Dalton, made all the world a difference. 70.3%, 319, 3 touchdowns. And there's only one quarterback in the league that has thrown for 303 touchdowns this year. It is the Red Rifle himself, Andy Dalton. So excellent performance by the Carolina offense and defense. Ejiro Evero had these boys up the play. Great game plan, negating Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers for the majority of this contest. And got to give it to Dave Canales making the tough decision just 2 weeks into the season, but it paid off. Andy Dalton was excellent. So was the Panthers defense, and they got the win. So first win under Canales. Gardner Minshew, 64.3%, 214, touchdown, a pick, 3 carries for 14 yards. Aiden O'Connell coming in late, 75%, 9 of 12, 82 yards and a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, that's another thing, Carolina. The passing attack started working, so guess what? There was more lighter boxes. Chuba Hubbard took advantage, 114 yards on 21 carries, 5 catches, caught all 5 of his targets for 55 yards and a touchdown. For the Raiders, though, they continue to struggle running the ball. Zamir White, their leading rusher, just 34 yards on 10 carries. Miles Sanders got in the end zone for Carolina as well. Alexander Madison, though, running a touchdown in second straight game he has scored, or scored in 2 out of 3 games. I can't remember if he scored last week or not. But anyways, wide receiver Deontay Johnson, best game of his career, let alone as a Panther. 122 yards on 8 receptions, a touchdown on 14 targets. Raiders wide receiver Trey Tucker scoring a touchdown, as did Jacoby Myers for Vegas, and then Adam Thielen catching a touchdown from Dalton as well. Defensively, I am going to go with Panthers linebacker Jadeveon Clowney, 2 tackles, a solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 QB hits. Michael Jackson also playing excellently for Carolina, 3 pass defense and a pick. Panthers plus 5.5 went outright over 40.5 easily. 58. Seahawks dominating the Dolphins 24-3 blowout in Seattle. Geno Smith, I would like to say fantastic. 76.5% is fantastic. 289 is pretty good. Threw a touchdown, but he threw 2 interceptions, and the Seahawks offense really stalled out in the middle of this game after getting out to a 17-3 lead. So there's definitely a lot to work on for Seattle. They were playing an overmatched Dolphins team without Tua Tagovailoa. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty easy to see how the Seahawks were going to dominate the Dolphins like they did. Skylar Thompson, he struggled like I knew he would. 68.4%, 107. Got injured in this one. Tim Boyle came in 53.8%, 79 yards. Zach Charbonnet, good day for him on the ground. 18 carries for 91 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 16 yards. Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf over 100, caught a 71-yard touchdown on one of his 4 receptions for 104 yards on 6 targets. And then defensively, I mean, it was Seattle all day. I am going to go with Seahawks linebacker Derek Hall. He was a monster up front. 5 tackles, 4 solos, 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, 4 QB hits. Zach Sealer, the defensive tackle for Miami, also good day. Interception for the big man. Seahawks minus 4.5, covered under 41.5. The Ravens 28-25 over the Cowboys. I do not know why the Ravens allowed the Cowboys to come back like they did. They were up 28-7 or whatever it was fairly early in this game, and they allowed Dallas just to crawl their way back to ending up a close game. But yeah, I mean, the Ravens finally did what they should have done from the start of the season. Run the freaking ball. Derrick Henry, 25 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 23-yard reception. Like, this is, I mentioned, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, like John Harbaugh saying they didn't bring Derrick Henry in to give him 20 carries a game. And I mentioned, like, that's what he does best. Like, that's how he gets rolling, is giving him more carries. They lean on the defense, and eventually he's going to break the defense's will by just pounding them up inside multiple times. And 25 carries, I think that's a classic Derrick Henry game. Dak Prescott, 54.9%, 379, 2 touchdowns, a rushing score. Good stats, but it was necessitated by the big deficit early. Lamar Jackson, 80%, 12 of 15, 182 yards, touchdown, 14 carries, 87 yards, a rushing score as well. And once again, the Cowboys couldn't run the ball. Rico Dowdle was their leading rusher. He did average 4 yards per carry, which is a good mark. But again, just 32 yards as your leading rusher. Not really what you want to see. Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson, he actually led the game in receiving, 11 targets, caught 6 for 95 yards. Cowboys wide receivers Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Tolbert catching touchdowns from Dak. And then Rashad Bateman caught the lone passing score from Lamar Jackson. Defensively, how about Ravens linebacker Kyle Van Noy? 2 tackles, both of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles lost, 1 pass defense, 2 QB hits. Ravens minus 1.5 covered, over 47.5. Lions 20-13 win over the Cardinals in Phoenix. Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed by Arizona. Logan and I on the Cardinals side of the split for the picks this week. The Cardinals had so many opportunities. Like, their defense played extremely well in the second half. They gave them opportunities got them the ball back with turnovers and forcing punts. And Kyler Murray just wasn't the guy in this game. 61.8%, 207, touchdown, a pick, 5 carries for 45 yards. They also couldn't run the ball at all. You see there, James Conner, just 17 yards on 9 carries, also caught an 8-yard pass. So the lack of rushing attack was kind of eye-popping for Arizona after Conner had been efficient the first 2 games, but the passing attack really wasn't there either for Kyler. He struggled to connect with Marvin Harrison on a bunch of plays, and there were a bunch of drops as well for the Arizona receivers. So it was a struggle all day for the Arizona offense. They did a good job making it a 1-score game. Just wish it was the other way. 1 score, 17-20 instead of 20-13. They could have covered that. Jared Goff, though, was really good. 78.3%, 199, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Dave Montgomery, the rushing attack was outstanding for Detroit all day. 105 yards on 23 carries, touchdown, 3 catches for 17 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, he got credited for a receiving touchdown, 20 receiving yards, but he didn't have a reception in this game because he was the recipient of the hook and ladder from, I think it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, that he scored on there. But good day on the ground, 5.2 yards per carry on 16 totes. Speaking of Amon-Ra, he led the game in receiving, 7 catches, 75 yards on 8 targets and a touchdown. Marvin Harrison Jr., big workload, 11 targets, but only caught 5 for 64 and a touchdown. And defensively, I am going to go with Lions defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, 6 tackles, 4 solos. Oh, yeah, he had another sack, 1 sack for loss, 2 QB hits. Man's been an absolute beast through the last couple of games. Lions minus 2.5 covered, under 51.5. The Rams, 27-24 comeback win over the 49ers. This one was ridiculous. Classic Kyle Shanahan meltdown. I have no clue what they were doing. They were up big in this one, 24-10 at one point, and allowed the Rams to score 17 unanswered points and win this game going away. I have no clue. Like, both teams were missing weapons, but the 49ers had the best player on the field in this game. Jawan Jennings was a monster. He completely blew away the Rams defenders throughout the day. And Kyron Williams was the guy on the Rams offensively. He scored 3 himself. But again, I have no clue why the 49ers just gave this one away. The defense should have been able to dominate this Rams offensive line or lack thereof. And the secondary was not good. They were missing tackles. And on the 49ers offensively, they also dropped the ball. Like everyone else besides Jawan Jennings, dropped the ball. So it wasn't a lack of Purdy not putting the ball there. He did not get enough help on this game. 73.3% for Purdy, 292, 3 touchdowns, 10 carries for 41 yards and a fumble. Matthew Stafford, 64%, 221, a touchdown. Kyron Williams, like I said, 3 total touchdowns for him, 89 yards on 24 carries, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 2 catches, 27 yards in receiving score. Jordan Mason was decent once again, not over 100 though in this one. And I mentioned Jawan Jennings just was a monster. 11 receptions, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns on 12 targets. 10 targets for Brandon Ayuk in this one. Only caught 5 for 48. I think he was one of the drops on the day. I think 49ers had 6 drops. So ridiculous for San Fran. And defensive player of the game for me is Rams linebacker Byron Young, 4 tackles, 2 solos, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass defense. Rams plus 6.5 went outright over 44.5. Sunday Night Football last night, the Chiefs squeaking one out in Atlanta, 22-17 over the Falcons. Kirk Cousins, 69%, 230, touchdown and a pick. Patrick Mahomes, it's continuing to look weird, despite the Chiefs being 3-0, 66.7%, 217, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 6 carries, 17 yards. And the Chiefs are now 3-0 in 1-score games. So do with that what you will. Anyways, Carson Steele, the undrafted rookie, leading the game in rushing. Good night for him. 72 yards on 17 carries, and one 2-yard reception. Bijan Robinson got in the end zone despite a lackluster rushing night. Rashee Rice was just a monster. Couldn't be stopped and hated it because I was playing against him in 2 fantasy leagues. 12 catches on 14 targets for 110 yards and a touchdown. Drake London, I freaking hate Drake London, bro. I had under 60.5 receiving yards. The last catch he had got him over that. I was like, bro, are you kidding me? Like, he had to throw it to Drake London on the last drive that the Falcons had of the entire game. Had to throw it to Drake London. I was pissed. 9 targets for Drake, 6 for 67 and a touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster also getting in the end zone. One Rashee Rice went out with a little bit of a ding up there. And then defensively, I'm going to go with Chiefs safety Shamari Connor. 10 tackles, 5 solos, 2 pass defense, and a pick. Chiefs minus 3.5. Covered under 46.5. All right, on to college football news. Bad news for LSU. Linebacker Harold Perkins Jr., he is out for the year. Torn ACL, big loss to that LSU defense. So they're going to have to figure it out without him. The best player, one of the best players on the defensively in college football. So tough loss for the Tigers there. And that's back-to-back weeks with first-round talent going down for the year. Siobhan Revel for the East Carolina Pirates there last week going down with torn Achilles, I believe it was. UFL news here. The Birmingham Stallions, they re-signed one of their stalwarts on defense, linebacker DeMarquise Gates, so he is back in the fold there. And the Showboats finally have a head coach. They have signed Ken Wisenhunt to be their new head coach. Decades of production as offensive coordinator in the NFL, also the former head coach of the San Diego Chargers and the Arizona Cardinals. So vastly experienced for Ken Wisenhunt, and I'm excited to have him in Memphis this coming season. On general news, NFL, Chargers safety Derwin James Jr., he has been suspended the next game for multiple violations of the league's player safety, repeated violation of playing rules intended to protect the health and safety of the players. So he's going to appeal, obviously, but they do play the Chiefs this week. So Chargers injuries and, lack of players adding up here coming up this weekend. Bad news for the Steelers. Rookie offensive tackle Troy Faltanu. He has a dislocated kneecap. He was placed on IR, could return if the Steelers make the playoffs, but long road ahead for the rookie who was playing very well at right tackle before being injured in practice this week. Speaking of injuries, there is a laundry list here. Jets offensive tackle Morgan Moses. He is out 2 to 4 weeks, MCL sprain. Again, I mentioned this like week 1. Like the amount of MCL sprains this year has been very concerning. Like it's been one of the most common, I think, injury this season. So I think that's something the NFL has to be looking into because it's just been crazy. Like every knee injury has been an MCL sprain. Luckily, though, for the players that have gotten that injury, like it's not a season ending and it's not a really long-term 2 to 4 weeks is what the majority of them are. So Steelers linebacker Alex Highsmith, he is a groin injury. Eagles offensive tackle Lane Johnson, wide receiver Devontae Smith dealing with concussions that knocked both of those guys out against the Saints this weekend. Giants rookie corner Drew Phillips, he has a calf injury. Lions tight end Sam Laporta, he is day-to-day with an ankle sprain. Falcons right tackle Caleb McGarry, he has an MCL sprain. Lions edge rusher Marcus Davenport, bad news, serious elbow injury, he is out for the year. Browns dealing with a couple injuries. Guard Wyatt Teller, he has a grade 2 MCL sprain, he is out about 4 weeks. Defensive end Myles Garrett's foot injury is listing him as day-to-day. Titans corner Chidobe Awuzie, he has a groin injury, possible to go on IR. Falcons center Drew Dahlman, he has a high ankle sprain. Vikings corner Sam Darnold, best news possible for the Vikings starter knee bruise there, no ligament damage. So good news in Minnesota. Raiders safety Marcus Epps, not as good news. He has a torn ACL. He is done for the year. Chargers rookie off the tackle Joe Alt has an MCL sprain. Left tackle Rashawn Slater has a strained pec. Cardinals tight end Trey McBride, he is in concussion protocol. 49ers defense tackle Javon Hargrave, bad news, partial triceps tear. He is done for the year. Hits keep on coming for the 49ers as quarterback Brock Purdy is day-to-day with back soreness as well. Ins and outs here, Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins dealing with a hamstring injury. He is set to make his season debut tonight. For the Jags, tight end Evan Ingram with a hamstring injury. He is out. Running back Tank Bigsby with a shoulder injury, and left tackle Cam Robinson with a knee. They are both going to play. And for the Commanders, corner Emmanuel Forbes, he is likely out tonight. Also, one for this coming weekend, Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp dealing with the ankle injury, not expected to play this coming weekend. Signings, a couple here. The Ravens, they signed former Colts and Raiders edge rusher Yannick Ngakoue to their practice squad, so some pass rush help coming for Baltimore. And the Jets, they signed safety Jalen Mills to their practice squad. All right. As we're getting set for the game to kick off in a little bit, the first of two Monday Night Football games tonight, here are the 2024 pick standings this year on the Monday show. Logan still leading the way, got his first loss. We all took the loss on the Eagles last Monday. Not great, but we got it back with the Thursday night game this week with the Jets beating the Patriots. Everyone got a win back except for John, who lone wolfed New England. So Jimmy is now continuing to be one back from Logan. I continue to be two back, and John is now down with me, two back of the lead. And here we go. The first game kicking off, like I said, in a couple minutes. The Jags at the Bills. Bills are 5.5-point favorites. And this is kind of a vibes pick. If Jimmy wants to give me the vibes alert, because I just think the Jags, they're not going to go 0-3. I just don't think it's going to happen. There are some issues, I think, with Buffalo. Now, they dominated the Dolphins on Thursday night last week. However, I think that the Jags have the pieces. They just haven't put them all together yet. And I think this is the game that's going to do it. I really like Khalil Shakir tonight for the Bills. So take his over receiving if anyone's doing some props there. But for the Jags, I just think Travis Etienne's a great player. They got a decent offensive line. They're getting Cam Robinson back this game. No Evan Ingram, so I would expect good workload for both Brian Thomas and Travis Etienne out of the backfield. Despite Tank Bigsby being back in the lineup, I don't think he's going to vulture as many carries from Etienne. So I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I still think there are concerns with the Buffalo front. If the Jags can avoid a lot of obvious passing situations, where Greg Rousseau and Von Miller and those guys and, Ed Oliver inside can tee off, I think the Jags are going to have a good night. Keep it in, third and manageable to short, keep ahead of the change. And I think defensively, it's going to be tough, obviously, to stop Josh Allen. But I think they have the secondary to shut these kind of receivers down. And it's going to be a difficult task up front with James Cook and Josh Allen in the rushing attack. But I think they can do just enough if they can get a lead, make Josh Allen throw the ball to the lack of, really talented receivers. I think the Jags can eke one out in Buffalo and get their first win of the year for Doug Peterson's squad. The other game tonight, Commanders. Actually, I forgot to say, the Bills are actually 4.5-point favorites, and it's a total of 46.5. I am leaning on the under in that game. 7:30 ESPN in 5 minutes here. And the second game here, the Commanders at the Bengals. Bengals getting 7 at home. I think they will cover that. I think no Emmanuel Forbes for Washington. I think it's going to be a great passing night for Joe Burrow in this offense. Not really scared of the Washington pass rush. So I think that Cincinnati should have a good night. They should win this handily and get their first win of the season there for Coach Taylor and co. And I also think the Bengals defense is going to make Jalen Daniels struggle. Unfortunately, because I'm playing against the Bengals defense in a tight matchup in fantasy. But yeah, I like the Bengals in this one, as does everyone else. Total is 46.5. I think this one has the capabilities to go over. 8:15 ABC and ESPN Plus. And then on Thursday night, the Cowboys are 4.5-point favorites in East Rutherford at the Giants. We are all on Dallas. I was kind of surprised that everyone went on Dallas. I just think, I know they can't run the ball. I know they cannot run the ball. But I think the Dallas defense is going to give Daniel Jones some issues when they try to pass the ball. Trayvon Diggs is really going to lock down Malik Neighbors. And then I think it's going to become the lack of passing options for Daniel Jones. The Giants really haven't been that great at running the ball either. So I think you're going to see the Dallas front seven bull up finally after giving up a ton of rushing yards the last 2 weeks. And I think the Giants are going to struggle offensively, and that's what's going to lead to this Cowboys win on Thursday night. 44.5 is the total. I like the under in this game because the Giants defense has also been playing very well. 8:15 p.m. on Prime Video. All right, that's the show for today. Next Monday, we'll be talking NFL Week 5 kickoff game, Bucks at the Falcons. We also got 2 more Monday night games next week. Another doubleheader, Titans at the Dolphins. That's going to be one fantastic game, I can tell you that. And then the Seahawks at the Lions. That actually is going to be a fantastic game. I'm very excited to watch that one. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and X, FAA_bets as well on X. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. 2 minutes to go. Enjoy your Monday night doubleheader, and we will see you all back on